Adjusting avatars may not be as straightforward as it seems. Often, we may not have the required measurements, or the measurement points can be named differently from one specification sheet to another. For this lesson, we will be creating an avatar according to a specification sheet using the parametric avatar, Olivia. We will be adjusting each measurement step by step, so you can download the specification sheet from the download section and follow along. When editing parametric avatars, remember that we should expect the avatar will not be 100% the same as the intended avatar. Although we may be able to change the avatar's measurements to meet the specifications, the avatar's shaping and posture may not be identical. It is highly recommended to use the intended scanned avatar, especially if doing garment fittings. However, adjusting the parametric avatar to meet measurement specifications is the next best alternative if the scanned avatar is not available. If doing a fitting with parametric avatars, we want to leave a little leeway for some discrepancy in fit. Before we start, we can put an image of the specification sheet in the 2D window so we can easily refer to the measurements. Note that this step is completely optional. We could, of course, have the measurements on a second screen. That works as well. It is also best practice to add an image of the avatar so that we can easily refer to it as we make adjustments. Here, we only have the front and side view of the avatar. If available, it is also best to include the back view of the avatar for comparison. Next, we ensure that the system measurement unit is the same as the measurements in the specification sheet. For example, if the specification sheet measurements are in inches, the system measurement unit in Preferences should be inches. Note that changing the measurement unit means we must restart VStitcher. To edit Olivia, we load Olivia into the 3D window. We are going to add a fresh, new Olivia by clicking Add Avatar from Template and selecting Olivia. Olivia measurement points are slightly different from Deborah. We also have different sections and new measurement points to help adjust the avatar more accurately. Olivia also has a fit marker texture, which we can turn on to see the markings on the avatar. When editing avatars, the best practice is to adjust the measurements from the top to the bottom. We should adjust the height and body size first. The height in the specification is 65.5 inches. For the body size, we want to adjust it so that the body shape of the avatar is like the intended avatar. Thus, in this case, we want to increase it as the avatar in the image looks much curvier. 0.3 looks just about right. This helps us achieve more accurate avatar sizing and measurements. Next, we want to adjust the avatar to be more balanced. Since we are trying to create a more mannequin style of avatar where the posture is much straighter, we can use the balanced top and bottom sliders to try and match the posture of the intended avatar. As for buttocks volume and hip volume, we will revisit these sliders. We can also adjust them by roughly gauging the position by comparison with the avatar image. The body posture looks okay. Again, we can revisit these sliders later if needed. Note that the balanced top and bottom sliders are available in version 2021.1 and newer. For the neck measurements, we use the neck base girth measurement on the specification sheet, which is 15.125 inches. For the shoulder measurement, the specification sheet states two measurements, across back shoulder width and across front shoulder width. To know which measurement to use, we click on the fields and look in the 3D window to see where the measurement points are. It measures across back, so we input 15.75 inches there. The shoulder slope on the avatar looks like it needs to be higher, so we adjust it. Let's stick to -0.6. We can revisit this value if needed. As for the nape to waist measurement, we see that there is no measurement specified, so we move on to the next measurement. We adjust the bust measurement to match the chest bust girth, 38.75 inches. And the underbust measurement we adjust to match the underbust girth, 32.5 inches. After adjusting the measurement, we can see that the shaping in the bust area looks different from the image. The cup of the bust in the image looks smaller, so we adjust the cup measurement to be smaller. We can also revisit this slider later if changes are needed. Next is the HPS to apex, which we can match to the neck to bust point measurement on the specification sheet, 10.75 inches. Apex to apex should match bust point to bust point measurement of 8.25 inches. In the specification sheet, it also states the upper chest girth. Although we do not have the ability in VStitcher to adjust that point of measurement, we can still check the measurement using the 3D measuring tape. We select the 3D measuring tape on the 3D window toolbar. Next, we click on the plus icon to create a new measurement. Since we want to check the measurement of the upper bust chest girth, we select the circumference measurement method. We click the bust area and use the 3D gizmo to drag the tape to the upper bust. Then we save the measurement. The required measurement is 38 inches, but the measurement of the upper chest is only about 36 inches. Since we have not adjusted the other parts of the avatar, like the armhole measurement, we can revisit this measurement later to check. Let's move on to the waist, hip, and high hip measurements. The waist measurement is 30.75 inches. The hip is 41.75 inches. And the high hip is 37.25 inches. Great! Now we can adjust the arm section. For the armhole measurement, we match it to the arm side girth, which is 16.875 inches. Arm length is 23 inches. We match the bicep measurement to the upper arm girth, 11.75 inches. The elbow is 10.125 inches. And the wrist is 6.25 inches. Let's revisit the upper bust measurement. After adjusting the arms, the upper bust is now about 37 inches. We can try and adjust the cup to be -0.8 to -0.9 so that the upper bust would be closer to 38 inches as required. This is a good example of how parametric avatars may differ from scanned avatars, as there may be certain parts of the avatar where it's not possible to match measurements exactly. In this case, we try to make it match as closely as possible. Next, let's look at the leg measurements. We need to adjust the outseam. However, the measurements in the chart did not state the measurement for the outseam. The waist to knee and knee height measurement is stated, so this means that we need to add the two measurements to get the outseam measurement. So it's 23 plus 17 and 7/8, which is 40.875 inches for the outseam. For the inseam, we follow the crotch height measurement, which is 30.5 inches. Now we fill up the rest of the fields. The thigh is 24 inches. The knee is 15 inches. The knee height is 17.875 inches. The calf is 14.5 inches. And the ankle is 9.625 inches. Finally, we need to adjust the head measurement to 22 inches. Great, we're almost done. Now we need to double check that the avatar measurements look okay. To do so, we compare the image of the intended avatar with the adjusted avatar. Let's rename the avatar to be Olivia Curvy Size 12. The first step is to identify a camera view we want to use. Looking at the image of the avatar, it is important that we position the 3D window of the avatar to use the same angle in view. For this avatar, we use the front and side views. Next, we need to do a render of the avatar. Note that the camera icon is grayed out. This is because we need to have a garment dress to render an image. Here's the workaround. We create a small rectangle of 15.5 inches by 2 inches, like a neckband, to stitch and dress around the avatar. Now we arrange it in the neck cluster and stitch and dress. We select the fabric used for the neckband and change the transparency to 100%. If we see a floating white line, we change the stitch construction of the edges to flat. Now we render the avatar. We will just use a normal render. We ensure that Include Avatar is selected. We render with a transparent background. As for image size, we can start off with 600 by 600 pixels. Then we crop the size of the image so that there isn't too much empty space. 72 or 150 dpi should be sufficient. Let's select the front and side camera views. Since we'll likely need to adjust the avatar and render for comparison again, it is best practice to save a render preset. We save the preset as Olivia Curvy Size 12. Now we can select the preset if we need to render out the avatar again. Great! Now that we have the render output, we need to add the render output into VStitcher as artwork. We assign the render output over the locked image. Next, we adjust the opacity of the render image and match the size of the avatar over the locked image. It is best to use the ankle or head as a reference. From here, we can see that the avatar doesn't match in some areas. The shoulder is too low, so we may need to shorten the neck. From looking at the 3D window, it appears the shoulder is too angular. The crotch is too low, so we may need to double-check and adjust the inseam. The markings on Olivia, on the waist, hip, and knee are also too low in comparison to the original, which may be the result of a low crotch. We edit the avatar again to amend the values. First, we adjust the shoulder values. We can nudge the values slightly and reduce the shoulders by 0.25 inches. We scroll down the list and adjust the neck height to -0.6. It seems that the bust point moved up slightly, so we adjust the HPS to apex value to 11 inches to ensure that the bust point matches that of the intended avatar. Next, we fix the waist and crotch issues. We'll adjust the inseam by 1.25 and 1.5 inches. Since the waist markings were also too low, we may need to increase the outseam measurement. Let's adjust this to 41.5 inches. Note that changing the outseam and inseam values automatically adjust the nape to waist values. This helps keep the avatar proportionate. We need to adjust the knee height. We move it up by 1.25 inches. The next thing we need to check is the posture of the avatar. We add in a side view render of the avatar and do the same comparison. This is where the slider's underbody posture can come in handy. We can adjust the top and bottom balance sliders to try and match the posture more closely. There seems to be an issue around the shoulder. We reduce the armhole slightly to 16.5 inches. We will do another comparison using the same method. Be sure to dress the transparent neckband again and render out the garment using the saved preset we have created previously. Before adding the new image, we lock the existing image in place. We go to the Resources tabs, and on the 2D tab, hide the images. We then apply the new images. For ease of comparison, we can check the size of the previous image and apply the same dimensions to the new image. The avatar looks much better. However, the shoulder is still too low. We adjust the neck height by -1. The shoulder slope looks too much. Let's increase it to about 0.5. We need to adjust the HPS to apex measurement again by 0.125 inches. The inseam is also just slightly lower, so we can try adjusting it too by another 0.125 inches. Looking at the side view comparison, the markings are mostly in the right place, and the overall posture of the back and bottom is similar. The buttocks area to the waist area is not as smooth, and the shoulder posture still does not look the same. We don't have the sliders to make this any closer, so it remains as is. Now for the last comparison. We repeat the same steps again. The avatar looks much better now. Before we end off, here are some additional tips. If we are comparing the screenshot of the adjusted avatar to an image taken of the real-life dummy, it is best to ensure that we take an image directly in front of the dummy and that the camera is not angled. This helps to ensure better accuracy when comparing. We suggest using a tripod to ensure that images are taken from the same angle. Let's look at these images as an example. The first image is ideal. The last two images are not ideal, as the camera is angled too high or too low. It is also important that when we render our avatars, we are rendering the avatars from the same view and angle as the image. We can save the camera views and then select them as we are creating the rendering preset. Secondly, it is best practice to always refer to the image of the avatar while adjusting the measurements and to double-check the measurements at each step. This is to ensure that the avatar doesn't look unnatural due to the new measurements. Think of avatar creation like an art form. Like our body, avatars are made of curves and have bone structure, so if anything looks too angular, it is okay to nudge the sliders slightly to help improve the curves. Furthermore, it is worth remembering that the measurement points on the parametric avatar may not be a 100% match of the measurement points of the specification sheet. The target measurement is actually the center of a grade range, and it's okay to veer slightly to either side as long as we are still within the range of that size. A good rule of thumb is that the measurement should not be more than half of the grade. Keeping this in mind keeps the avatar measurements within tolerance of the target size. This also helps when considering the overall shape of the avatar. We want the avatar to look as natural and as close to the shape of the intended avatar as possible. So it's okay if we need to ever so slightly adjust the measurements to smooth the shape of the avatar. Lastly, to do the comparison, you can also utilize photo editing software like Photoshop if you're comfortable with it. So long as you can juxtapose the images of the avatars, then you're good to go. And that's all. For more information, visit support.browsware.com.